Did you happen to hear closely the words from the opening prayer this morning? God of might, giver of every good gift, put into our hearts the love of your name, so that you may nurture in us what is good, and by your watchful care, keep safe what you have nurtured. You know, there's a theme in our readings today: humility. A need for humility in our lives. Why? It keeps us focused. It keeps us focused on who we are, who God is, and why He's God and we're not. So we can ask ourselves a few questions as we reflect on the readings today. Am I a humble person? Do I show humility in what I say, what I do, how I act? Am I looking for people to notice me? Am I looking to impress others? Do I have a need for self-importance? Now, the writer, C.S. Lewis, who wrote a number of works, and he always had a Christian Catholic theme to them. In fact, he wrote the Narnia series of books. He defined humility as not so much thinking less of ourselves, but instead thinking of ourselves less often. Not so much a lack of self-confidence, but a confidence in who we are, a trust in ourselves, what we've been given, and what God gives us. An ability to use those gifts so that we can put others first. So I ask myself, am I a humble person? Well, sort of, I guess. Sometimes. It's hard. It's hard finding that balance. Finding that balance. We forget sometimes that we're the ones who were created, not deserving of anything, not the center of the universe, but all given a great gift, the gift of life and the gift of God's love. You know, this week is actually a nice follow-up to last week's gospel. We heard last week how difficult it is to pass through the narrow gate. Only those who pick up and carry their cross can really follow Christ. Humility is one of those things that helps us to pick up the cross. It helps us to find a way to squeeze through that narrow gate. Difficult and hard as it may be, God is always eager, inviting and welcoming us into His kingdom. And we just need to remember that sometimes. It's a narrow gate, but when we try to exclude others, when we try to jump in front of others, see ourselves deserving the speed pass to the front, it becomes narrower. Humility is that virtue that helps us keep our place in line, to let others pass once in a while, to have trust and faith that there's always room, no matter what, in God's kingdom. So our readings remind us to keep humble, to maintain that humility, that pride and a self-serving ego don't allow us to really see the greatness of God. In our first reading from the book of Sirach, we hear, "Humble yourself, you'll find favor with God." In Jesus' parable today, a statement on recognizing our need for salvation, of helping others towards salvation as well. We all need salvation, and we get there together, not alone. Stand back, look at others, see where we can help them as well. We're all equals. We all have a humble spirit, working with one another. That's how God sees us. That's what God sees in each one of us. Pope Francis, early in his pontificate, spoke about the poor being models for us as Christians, as disciples. He said, "I want a church which is poor and for the poor." They have so much to teach us. Not only do they share a sense of faith with us, but in their difficulties, they experience the suffering of Christ. We can let ourselves be evangelized by them. We're called to find Christ in them, to be their friends, to embrace the mysterious wisdom that God has given to them and that He wishes to be shared with us. When we open our hearts with gratitude for all that we've been given, with a spirit of sharing those gifts with one another, and we really start to realize the depth of God's love for us. It's always been there, it always will be there for us. Discipleship is a way of life, and humility is part of discipleship. That's a message that we find in the gospel. It's the joy of what's in the gospel message for us. The peace, the mercy that is the love of God for each one of us. And sharing that love with one another, blessed indeed will you be. Blessed indeed will we all be.